Now, we could have mentioned this before we went to the Castle of Ordeal, as soon as we got the airship, in fact, but this is when the game really opens up. In the beginning, things were very linear. You have the Castle of Corneria, then you have the Temple of Fiends, and progressively the game opened up a little bit more when you got your boat, and then when you talked to the dwarves, gave them the TNT, and the southern continents were fully opened up. Now that we have the airship, you can actually do the next steps of the story in whatever sequence you want. Technically, you could have done the story in whatever sequence you want once you got the canoe. You could have gone straight for the airship, skipped the fire fiend, and did some story steps, and then taken out the fiends backwards. Now we're going to head to a portion of the northern continents just north of the Peninsula of Power, and we're going to see that even though the game is opened up to us now with the airship, the northern continents have been designed to not make it easy to park your airship right next to a town. We're going to have to park because of the woods and the marshes and the deserts far away from our destinations in the northern continent and then walk there, with the exception of the town of Gaia and the Cardia Islands. And I didn't get a chance to mention this, but Cardia means heart, and the heart is often associated with the quality of courage, so perhaps that's why the islands were named as such. So we're going to skip ahead to a little town called Lefein, and we can't do anything in this town yet. You will soon see why. They speak a language that we do not understand, yet. But we've also come here to show you a little something else. In the other towns, you will see 3 black and white abilities of level 8 for sale, but if you go to the northeast corner of town and walk through the green field, you will see 1 black shop and 1 white shop, each selling what is, in my opinion, the best white and black level 8 abilities. Life 2 will completely restore a character back to life at full health, and then for the black shop, Nuke is the strongest black mage ability in the game. Now, if you are an American veteran of the Final Fantasy series, you will recognize Nuke as the first name given to the series staple Flare. But now we will continue our progression of the story by taking our airship to Gaia, the Eye of the Hawk, one of the only 2 locations in the northern continents that you can drop your airship right at the front door of. Here's a look at the map of the area. It's another big town. Interestingly, the Pixel Remaster removes these trees to make the second black and white shops more accessible. And then when it comes to the shops, things shift a little at this point. You have 2 levels of black and white abilities for sale here, but not all level 7 and 8 abilities are available here. 1 level 8 of each is sold in Lefein, as we have seen, and 2 level 7 of each are sold in the next town we visit, Onrac. As far as the white abilities sold, I like to get both level 7s just because I already have Harm 1 through 3 and I want to finish the set. Cure 4 is the best single target heal in the game. Along with fully replenishing your hit points, if you use it in battle, it will cure status ailments as well. Exfer is the series staple Dispel, but it is bugged and only works when enemies use it on you. And Fade is actually the series staple Holy. Magic doesn't serve an optimal role here late game, but I'm going to buy Holy anyway because this is a video game. Holy is cool and optimal is overrated. For black abilities, I like to get both Ice 3 and Break. In this game, it takes a poison element, although it does not slowly decrease HP like poison would. It's just in the poison category. And for level 8, I would take Zap and leave Stop for the Black Wizard abilities. Even though Stop is a little more accurate, Gamer Corner Guides asks a good question. Why paralyze your enemies when you have almost as good a chance at one-shotting them altogether? The gear sold in Gaia also breaks the mold. There are only 2 pieces of armor, the gold bracelet and the Pro Ring, which is an abbreviation for another series staple, the Protect Ring, which will prevent instant death attacks. Unfortunately, it will not protect you from enemies whose regular attacks have a chance of killing you in one hit, so plan accordingly for those nasty sorcerers. The Cat Claw is a nice upgrade for your Black Wizard at this point, but not a giant leap in strength, so I agree with Gamer Corner Guides. Buy it if you have more money than you know what to do with. Now in this town, we're going to get a wealth of information. There's a reference to the town of Lefein that we've already visited. And in this time before in-game journals that kept track for you, you would definitely want to take out your pen and paper at this point in the game in order to keep track of everything that the townspeople say. That castle we've already been to. There is something important to take note of in order to progress the story. Now you may say we're already on the eastern edge of the map as it is, but remember that the map loops, so if you go far enough to the east, you'll end up on the west side of the map. Now take a look at this. Imagine that no one told you that the brooms in Matoya's cave talk backwards, and you just weren't able to make out what they were saying. At this point in the game, now you've talked to someone who has the same sprite as Matoya, and she has revealed to you what the brooms are actually saying or how to understand what they're saying. There's kind of a story reference, nothing practical for us to use, but it helps us to immerse ourselves in the world of Final Fantasy. Through these little woods is the other magic shop. Now when I first played this game, I thought that was pronounced OxyAle, but it's actually pronounced OxyAle because it is an item that allows you to breathe oxygen underwater. That professor had a little hint to where we might be able to decipher the Lefanian language. And this pirate has admitted to why the ferry is missing. Over and around these trees through the woods is where we will find the lake that the ferry would normally be dwelling at. So now we have a nice list of leads to follow in order to progress the story and hopefully save the ferry. We're going to take the advice of the woman that said she saw a flying object, but before we do that, there was a reference to a Mirage tower in the desert. We're going to check that out first, and then we're going to head east to the continent that is actually on the far western edge of the map in order to see what that lady was talking about. Now you'll see the tower here, but again, because we can't land our airship in the desert, the area has been designed to force us to land the airship far enough away to take a decent walk so that we have a few enemy encounters on our way to these different locales. Here's the Mirage Tower, and as you can see, we cannot enter it from any side. Every time I go around the tower, I'm trying to press the D-pad into it, but right now we don't have access. So now we will head east in order to end up on the west side of the map. I said east. And now again, once we get to the next continent, we will only have 2 places to park our airship. One little patch of opening to the south of the desert, and then another south of the river and south of the marshes. But that's the town we're going to head to next that we just flew over. And you'll see a little oasis in the desert. I like to land here on my first trip through the continent. But now, at this point in the game, I make our ninja the party leader because the party leader's luck affects whether you act first in battle or not. And it's not a huge, significant change, but it is a little something. So for the rest of the game, Miko is our party leader. His armor is good enough to be the party leader, not like the thief. Of course, when we fight bosses, we will definitely switch back to Shao as the party leader. As far as what Onrac has for sale, there isn't much to see here. There are no weapon or armor shops, although this is the only other place, aside from Elfland, that sells soft potions. For the white and black abilities, we have 2 spells each. Level 7, A-Rub for the white wizard protects all warriors against the rub spell. It is still ineffective against the sorcerer's one-hit kill attack. Heal 3 we technically kind of already have because Heal 2 is bugged in your favor. If you remember casting it in battle, it has the same potency as Heal 3. I like to pick it up anyway. And then for the Black Wizard's abilities, Saber would be excellent to really put the hurt on enemies, especially in combination with Fast, and in future versions of this game it is, but in this game it is bugged and does not work right. Blind causes the same status as Dark, but it's single target, and if the foe is not resistant to status and under 300 hit points, that's a guaranteed hit. We will get a little more insight into the story. This hints at the connection between the people of Onrac and the mermaids. There's an important note. And you'll see some of these sprites have been reused but recolored. That's something else that I like about these Final Fantasy games, reusing characters and recoloring them. Seems like a shortcut, but I just like the feeling of seeing them. It's like a signal to me that I've entered a new phase of the game. Okay, so there's another reference to that UFO that the lady in Gaia told us about. None of these tombs say anything. And as you can see, the people of Onrac are helping us pinpoint some of the clues that we picked up in Gaia. The 200-year mark, that's a reference to the Fiend of Water. And there's the location of the Caravan. You see a dragon here. If we did not undergo the trial of courage yet, he would have given us a hint at where we could go to do so. And here in the bottom right corner of the village, southeast corner, there is an NPC that will give us a little more insight into the unidentified flying object. And he will get in our way of talking to the lady by the submarine. Here he is acting like he's going to get out of our way, and then he goes right back. This is a frustrating part of a lot of early RPGs, these NPCs getting in your way. So we're going to come back here a little bit later when he's out of our way so that we can talk to her. Now we cannot enter the submarine without our OxyAle. And you might still hear me call it OxyAle by accident. Old habits die hard. And this is probably the most luxurious inn that we've seen in the game. That cryptic stone plate is crucial to the story, and it's actually connected to what this guy is talking about. Now we see the usefulness for that arrogant Dr. Unne in the town of Melmond. It's cool if you play Final Fantasy Dissidia. They make reference to a lot of the mythos of this Final Fantasy. For a long-time fan of the Final Fantasy series, Dissidia was cool in that regard. Now let's track down that unidentified flying object that we've heard so much about. If we go north along the river, we will see the only waterfall on this continent. And like any good video game, there is a secret behind the waterfall. And as you can see from the map, this waterfall cave only has one objective. There are 4 dead ends that can distract you, but if you hug the left wall the entire time, you'll make it to your objective no problem. And this is friendly NPC music, but this is, again, not a friendly NPC cave. Here are the enemies that you may run into. Now this cave actually looks bigger than it really is. On the right, it looks like there's a space that you can't get to, but that is actually the western edge of the map, and we are currently on the eastern border. So as we walk around to the other side of the cave, you will see where we are standing now, looking like the inaccessible area. And there's a glitch or a bug in this cave that's not really a bug. It didn't catch my attention until it was called such on the internet, but the bats will fly over the ceilings in this cave. Places that you can't walk to, they can fly to, which makes sense for a flying creature. As we walk to the left here, you'll see the other side of the map. That's our entrance. That is the eastern edge of the map. There is a bat that is supposedly bugged, but again, it flies, so it makes sense. Now, as we enter the room, we have a forced fight. These mummies are guarding the room, and we're going to see a lot of mummies actually guarding treasure chests as we progress through the rest of this game. Now, have you noticed how the boss fights in this game go quickly? And it's not because I'm power leveling and taking the bosses out fast. That's just how the fights are designed. You'll notice that one of my characters almost dies or is KO'd at each boss fight. These fights were just designed to go quickly. The boss takes me out quickly, or I take them out quickly. In future Final Fantasies, it's interesting because the enemy fights can be long in this game and the boss fights can be short. But as Final Fantasies progress, the enemy fights get less and less, and the boss fights turn into more and more of a cutscene with interactive moments. Now we see a series staple of Final Fantasy. Throughout the game, it has felt like a high fantasy story, but now we come across some advanced technology, which felt pretty interesting when the game first introduced this, but by the 15th or 16th Final Fantasy, when you start seeing advanced technology being introduced, it starts to feel like a trope. I'm sorry. But I kind of wish they would take it easy on the advanced technology nowadays. And now we have picked up our first ribbon, which is historically, arguably, the best headgear in any Final Fantasy game. And in most Final Fantasies, the ribbon will protect you against all status ailments. But still, it won't do anything to protect you from the sorcerer's one-shot kill. But now we're going to see how the exit spell or the warp spell, if you have enough MP slots, has changed our strategy for dungeon crawling. Rather than making sure we have enough resources to make it both inside and to walk back outside of a dungeon, we really just have to make sure that we have enough spell slots to use warp, one spell slot for each floor of the dungeon we're in, or we just keep one spell slot available for exit for our white wizard, and make sure that we keep our white wizard alive. Now the defense that we've just picked up is a sword that we are going to give to our ninja, and he will use that until we get his best weapon in the game. Also take note that defense, when used as an item in battle, will cast ruse on the wearer. And the nice thing about ruse is it's stackable. You can get to a point, if the enemies let you live long enough, to where you cast ruse on yourself so many times, you become practically untouchable. But going back to the exit spell, we can really use all the resources we want to dive as deep as possible into a dungeon. As long as we can still have our white mage use exit, we go out to a place where we can use a house and use cabins, and we'll be just fine. We are now on our way to the caravan in the oasis in the desert. And we start our walk back towards the airship, but instead of getting on the airship, we will enter the desert and walk to that oasis. Make sure you have at least 50,000 gold pieces with you before you head to the caravan in the desert. We'll do a quick save just in case something nasty pops up in the desert along the way. And here's the caravan. It looks like a shop just like any other, but this mysterious bottle that it sells is crucial to the story. Now, until you use the bottle, you can re-enter the oasis and in fact, while the caravan is there, you can land your airship not in the desert, but you can land it right on top of the square that leads you to the caravan. Step to the side, and then step back to enter the caravan. But once you buy the bottle, you have to go to your items and then use it. We have set the ferry free, and it has flown back home. Or teleported. It doesn't exactly say how the ferry leaves. There's a description for the cube if you're interested. Now we jump back on the airship and make our way back to Gaia, the Eye of the Hawk. Now it's not mentioned in this game, but in the original Japanese, Gaia was called the Eye of the Hawk, and Lefein was called the Wing of the Hawk. A lot of these translational differences were rectified in future versions of this game. The Pixel Remaster is much more faithful to the original Japanese text. Here she is. And now we have the OxyAle, which will enable us to breathe underwater. So we head out of Gaia and make our way back to Onrac. The storm that sank the sea shrine came on as a dawn of red skies and hot winds from the east. By noon, dark clouds boiled overhead and 20-foot waves crashed against the marble walls of the shrine. Inside, the mermaids watched with apprehension. It had long been known that something was amiss in the world, but until now the sea had been their friend. They stowed their most valuable possessions on the top floor of the shrine, then settled down to wait. It soon became clear that the shrine could not withstand the waves and wind for long. But the mermaids worried more about the town of Onrac, for the people there could be swept into the sea and lost, unlike the mermaids. As the storm reached its peak of fury and the shrine began to slide into the depths, one mermaid escaped. She warned the people of Onrac, who fled inland and were saved, but in so doing, the mermaid had lost her home forever. The Sunken Shrine has 5 levels, and we actually enter it at the 3rd level. First, we go upstairs to where the mermaids are. There's a lot of treasure to be seen up there, but there is also a crucial item to the story. After that, we make our way back down to the 3rd floor, and then work our way all the way down to what I call the 1st floor, in order to face the Fiend of Water. Here are the enemies that we will encounter along the way, many of them being weak to the lightning element, so that Zeus Gauntlet will come in handy. And you will also want to take note that these enemies, when you encounter them, cannot be run from. Having an item that allows you to breathe underwater and/or an item that allows you to traverse underwater is something that is used in the Final Fantasy series. It's repeated, but it is not used very often. Off the top of my head, I can think of this game, Final Fantasy III, and then Final Fantasy VII, all having items that allow you to either breathe underwater or a vehicle that allows you to travel underwater. We don't see mermaids as often either in the series, although we do see Sahagins, or Sahagins, referred to as a people or a culture. Sometimes they're just enemies, and sometimes they are a tribe that you can interact with, and sometimes, in the case of Final Fantasy XIV, they are both. Now, the opal armor is going to be good for our knight. Our knight is the only one that can equip the opal armor, gauntlets, and helmet, and it gives him resistance to lightning. Right now, we have resistance to fire and ice thanks to the body armor and the shield, but in this area there are enemies who will use lightning, as well as enemies that are weak to lightning, so the opal armor is going to be beneficial for the knight. The light axe is not an impressive weapon when it comes to its physical attack, but it does allow the one who has it equipped or the one who has it in their inventory to use harm 2. So we give it to our knight, and now both our white mage and our knight can use harm 2, which affects all undead on the battlefield. Here's a demonstration. You couple that with the black mage's ability to cast fire 2, and they don't stand a chance, although they hit pretty hard. Later on in this Sunken Shrine, we're going to find an item that will give anyone holding it the ability to cast Fire 2 in battle without costing any mana points. So we're getting a lot more versatile in our battle options and things we can do to preserve the party and take out the enemies without using up our precious MP slots. And there is the staff that allows us to use Fire 2, and we're going to leave that in Miko's inventory, so that any undead that we come across, everyone has the ability to take them out. And at this point, Miko has the ability to cast both Lit 2 and Fire 2, giving him 2 out of the 3 elements to attack with. Again, without costing any mana points. Here is the top floor of the Sunken Shrine, where we get to interact with the mermaids. Now in the Pixel Remaster, that character says, "My prayers have been answered," so that could be a translational thing. We're going to see a lot of treasure and a lot of lore from the mermaids. There are no random encounters on this floor. The opal bracelet is the best armor for our wizards. It's the best, highest defense bracelet. Now, in the original Japanese, they don't name the friend Daryl, which makes me wonder if that was a reference to Daryl Hannah, the actress that played a mermaid in the 1980s movie Splash. There's a little thing to take note of for accessing our next dungeon. Now we have to go and drop some items in order to pick up what's in here. That's one thing you don't have to worry about in the Pixel Remaster. All of your items and armor share a common inventory, and it's a rather large inventory. So whenever you pick up armor, you don't have to share it between the hero's limited armor inventory space. Now there's one more room that we have to get to. It's in the top right, and as you can see, we can't access it just by walking to it. There's water that disrupts both roads, if you will, that we could walk to, and the building just below it does not go through. As you can see, I step inside. So how do we get to that last box in the top right corner, that last room in the top right corner? Well, the map actually rotates. If you walk all the way to the western extremity of the room, here in the top left corner, you will end up on the right extremity of the room. It's a long bridge. Fortunately, there's no battle on this big bridge. And here we are. Inside are 2 good pieces of armor, and then the slab. That is the piece of stone that was referred to in the town of Onrac that is a key to understanding the Lefeinian language. It's called Lefeinian in the NES, but in future renditions of the original Final Fantasy they are called Lufanians, L-U-F, instead of L-E-F. We'll head outside using the exit spell. We will stay at an inn to recharge and save our game, and then we will head back into the Sunken Shrine, this time heading down towards our fight or confrontation with Kraken. The opal gauntlets are nice, the opal helmet as well. Neither one of those offer electric resistance. It's just the shield and the armor that offer electric resistance. And the electric resistance does not stack. So as long as one piece of armor protects against a certain element, that's as good as it gets. Even if you use a fire on someone who's wearing fire armor, it does not have an additional effect. Your elemental defense can only be augmented one step, so to speak. And you know, these battle messages are getting kind of long, and we understand what they're doing at this point, what they mean. So why don't we go back to our main menu and reset our battle message speed to something a little bit faster. Let's go up to 7. We're going to be doing a lot of group attacks, a lot of group heals, so the faster battle messages are definitely going to help expedite the process. Otherwise, I think it would feel a little like too much of a drag. Yeah, I think this is much better. Now, the girl that led us into the submarine when she found out that we had OxyAle, in the original Japanese text there was a description that she mysteriously vanishes after giving us access to her little homemade submarine. And in subsequent versions of this game, with more updated graphics, she does kind of float away and mysteriously disappear. Especially in the Pixel Remaster, it's kind of spooky. And then that word OxyAle again. Like I said, when I first played this game, I thought that it was pronounced OxyAle, or at least I read it as OxyAle, which kind of reminds me of an ox drinking a beer, or maybe an ox graduating from Yale, or the mythical creature called a Yale mixed with an ox. Now we go up and down these floors. We go up a few floors, and then we go back down. 2 more floors from here, and we will end up at the Kraken fight. But the floor after this one has a nice bit of treasure in it as well. Now, among the treasures that you will find on this floor are 2 items that will cast a spell in battle. One of them, though, is a spell that is bugged, and that is the Saber spell. And it's also good to keep in mind that in this Final Fantasy, when your characters are silenced or muted, they can't cast spells. That includes spells that are cast by items. You will not be able to use those when you are muted. So no abilities at all, only physical attacks when you are muted. Most of these treasure chests are guarded by an enemy. That's the fight that we're in right now with these water elements. And you will notice that these water elements are different from their cousins in the fire and earth caves. They are less anthropomorphic and more elemental looking. And there is a glove on this floor that casts Saber. Saber is bugged. If it wasn't bugged, it would be a very powerful ability, allowing the caster to increase their attack and accuracy. This is the only time that you will see mummies and cockatrices, when they are guarding the treasure chests. Now here's some good news. The cockatrices get less and less threatening as your characters equip elemental defense armor. The cockatrices are weak to ice, and because of a bug in this game, their attack that turns you to stone is an ice-based attack. So if your characters are all equipped with ribbons, which give you defense against every element, including ice, the cockatrices' attacks will not turn you to stone. because you will be resisting their ice-based element. Now there is the power glove that is supposed to cast Saber, which will increase the caster's attack output. But the defense of that glove is nothing to write home about, so it turns up being a useless piece of gear. And physical attacks win the day for this fight. I was so distracted that I forgot to open the chest. There's a light axe in there, a second light axe, which would give 3 characters the opportunity to use Harm 2 in one turn. When I go back to finish the last chapter of this little series, I'm going to return to the Sea Shrine and get that light axe back. We're definitely dropping the power glove for what is in this chest, another ribbon. And this one we will give to Miko. Every time you step on that tile, is another monster guarding the treasure. Alright, now we go down the stairs. This is the final floor where we will face Kraken, the Fiend of Water. There's a running gag in video games that the water level is always the hardest. It has the most peaceful music, but it's always the most challenging level. But in Final Fantasies, I always looked forward to the water levels. They were fun and interesting to me, because they kind of painted this picture of a lost civilization that was submerged underwater, and the architecture would make me wonder about the lore of that lost civilization. Not necessarily in this game, but in other submerged areas in Final Fantasy games. And a little bit in this one. I think this game has pretty good storytelling. To get ready for our fight with Kraken, we will move Shao back to party leader so that he has the most chance of being targeted.
Release the Kraken!
The Fiend of Water is vulnerable to lightning, and he will also use lightning, along with a very beefy physical attack and darkness. His darkness attack is called Ink. And fortunately, our main physical attackers have not been affected by Ink. Having a ninja is nice because you can cast fast on 2 characters in one turn. And having a knight is useful because you can cast an elemental resistance while your white mage casts a physical resistance. We will keep Cow just kind of pumping the HP of the party up. while Shal really does the damage, and Miko and Omaruk supplement. So if between Shal and Miko one of them gets hit with darkness, we definitely want that to be Miko, because Shal has the higher attack. Three out of 4 fiends down. We head outside, go back to town in order to recharge at the inn, and now we take the stone tablet that we found at the top floor of the submerged shrine, and we go to Melmond, where we show the tablet to Dr. Unne. In the early days of the technological ascendancy of Lefein, a debate raged over whether it was a good idea to build castles in the sky. Some people argued that what goes up must come down, and as a result, those people still on the ground when the castles eventually came down would get squashed. Others said that if man had been meant to build castles in the sky, he would have been given nests. But no one really understood that argument, and few supported it. A lack of support was, in fact, the problem most people had with floating architecture. Defying gravity was all well and good when it came to airships, but castles were another thing altogether. Now we have the ability to speak Lefeinian. Many of the Lefeinish believed that something terrible would happen if the castle was built. But the castle was built, and a staff of robots was made to keep the place in order. The Sky Warriors made it their home and kept peace throughout the world until the coming of the Fiend of Wind. Then everything changed. An enemy force of cruel monsters swept in like a tornado, and the Sky Warriors escaped with a single airship. The people of Lefein wondered if they had unwittingly set loose the horror, but no one took the blame, and the problem only got worse. That's quite a story Nintendo Power cooked up. This town will be lore-heavy, along with some information that will guide us in our next steps of the quest. And we're going to make Kao the party leader, because she most resembles the NPCs here, and fits right in. So they seem to be well informed about the Light Warriors and the big picture. The Lefeinians were the ones that used the technology that gave us our airship. We encountered a robot behind the waterfall. See that little NPC just outside the city walls? That's something to take note of, what this NPC has to say. Tiamat is the Fiend of Wind. That's our final fiend to defeat. This guy right here is important. That's the item that we need to gain access to Mirage Tower in the desert. That's the second reference to the 5 who went to find what happened to the power of the earth. To the powers in the earth, we should say. This NPC is a nice little signal that you should step outside the city walls. That would hopefully lead you to the black and white shop. While we're here, we are going to pick up Life 2 and Nuke. We head back to the airship, take this to Gaia. We can refresh and save our game, and then we head to the south of the desert where we can land the airship and make our way to the Mirage Tower. There's a few nasty enemies that we can encounter. Most of the enemies in these northern continents are nasty, but the ones here in the desert particularly so. On your way to the Mirage Tower, make sure you bring houses and cabins with you so that you can refresh just before you enter the tower. And as you can see, the chime is not an item to be used, it's passive. You just walk into the tower with the chime in your inventory and you begin the dungeon crawl. Now in this area, there are 3 floors that lead you to another dungeon. So this is going to be the longest dungeon in the game, essentially, because we have 3 floors to the Mirage Tower before we go through 5 floors of the castle in the sky. And what you may want to do, especially if you don't want to drop and throw away a lot of equipment, is do a treasure run in 1 floor and then leave, sell what you need to sell, and then save the game, and then come back, do another treasure run of the next floor, which can get tedious, but if you don't want to waste, you can do it that way. Here are the enemies that you will encounter. There's a few new ones, and some old troublemakers as well you have to watch out for. What's nice about the Mirage Tower, and it makes it conducive to making a treasure run and then leaving, is that the stairs are somewhat a straight shot from each other, whereas the treasure chests are kind of out of the way. So once we get all the treasure, if we leave and come back, as you can see from the entrance, the 2 stairs from the first floor to the second floor are very close to one another. Here is a nice piece of armor for the knight. The Vorpal blade is sadly suffering from being bugged. It is supposed to be impressive in its critical hit rate, but every weapon's critical hit rate raises arbitrarily, so the Vorpal blade is nothing to write home about. There's another robot like the one we got the cube from behind the Waterfall Cave, and that heal helmet that we picked up, your knight and your ninja can both equip it. If used in battle, like the heal staff, it casts heal on the entire party. Another robot, and you can see the stairs there that lead us to the top floor. But if we go south, rather than north to the stairs, we can enter this room in the center. And we find a nice bit of treasure here, particularly on the left treasure chest, Cow's ultimate weapon. This needs more build-up. Let's do it again. Now we can equip Cow with a weapon that allows her to cast Lit 2 in battle without costing any mana points. This is an upgrade over the Silver Hammer, and it's cool because now we know Cow is worthy.
I knew it.
The Sun Sword is our upgrade, the first sword since the Ice Sword that we've been hanging on to for a long time that will be an upgrade for our Knight. The defense was technically a little stronger than the Ice Blade, but we gave that to Miko. The Sun Sword is the nice upgrade that we will give to Shao. And the Dragon Armor now gives Shao resistance to all the elements. We will exit, head back to Gaia, recharge and take care of some inventory, walk back through the desert, be careful, crack kills, go back into the Mirage Tower, skip past the first floor, make our way to the second, see what this robot has to say. That's the one we met. And as we move now into the top floor of the Mirage Tower, we have a dragon to fight as soon as we walk in this room. Just like the enemies that guard treasure chests, he will always be there when we step on that tile. The blue dragon will resist thunder and earth attacks. It will also cast a nasty thunder attack on you, so treat it like a boss. Augment your physical attackers with fast, and then have your white mage or your knight cast Alet to protect them from this nasty attack. Now regarding the dragon armor that we picked up for the knight, when we say that it resists all elements, we're talking about the obvious elements: fire, ice, and lightning. There are actually 8 elemental categories in this game, including poison, time, status, and death. Death is its own element, status is its own element. So the dragon armor will protect you against 3 of those elements, which really compensates for all the other elemental armor you've been able to equip: the fire, the ice, and the opal, which protects you against lightning. Here we are in the castle in the sky, and the aesthetics shift drastically from high fantasy to pure technology. And on this floor, some of the notable treasure is a pro ring, another heal helmet, and the Bane sword. So you can have 2 people equipped with the heal helmet, but the Bane sword is useful because when used as an item, it casts Bane, which hits all enemies, and it has a chance of one-shot KOing each enemy. In fact, the boss of this area, the final fiend, Tiamat, is weak to poison, so you can use Bane or maybe even Break and roll the dice to see if you can one-shot kill the final fiend of wind. Otherwise, I like to give Miko the Bane sword so that when we face a big crowd of enemies, Miko can use the Bane sword to see if he can thin the herd a little bit while the other 3 do their thing. But now, with 3 characters that are able to cast heal without using any mana, it's cool when you're fighting a weak enemy or when you thin a herd down to 1 enemy to have all 3 of them use heal to recover a little hit points, which help to sustain us as we ascend through this castle in the sky. As we've already mentioned, there are 5 floors to this dungeon before we face the final fiend, the Fiend of Wind, and the first 3 floors contain a trove of treasure, some of the best armor and weapons in the game, including the best weapon for our ninja, the katana. And as you can see, you will make a lot of money by the time you clear the Sky Castle. So we'll take our full inventories and go back to Gaia to recharge and take care of some inventory. Fly back to the desert, be careful, crack kills, return back to the Mirage Temple, move through the first floor onto the second, work our way up to the northern stairs, fight the blue dragon again, and get back to the first floor where we left off, make our way to the second floor. At this point, I'm just going to give up trying to go back to town, and I'll just drop whatever items I need. Because I got tired of doing that. On this floor, the notable items are the ribbon, which you cannot buy anywhere. So the ribbons that you find are particularly special. The white robe and the black robe for our white and black wizards, which will give the white wizard the ability to cast Invis, which increases the entire party's evasion, and like Ruse, it can be stacked to the point that the entire party might be untouchable if the enemies allow you to live long enough to cast Invis that many times. And the black wizard's robe allows him to cast Ice 2 on all enemies without using any mana points. So we will have items that will enable us to cast all three of the attack elements, lightning, ice, and fire, once we pick up the black robe. And then the final item of note on this floor is an item that we have been looking for since almost the beginning of the game. We've had a note for a long time for this item. And here it is, the Adamant. Now we can obtain the second most powerful weapon in the game. The most powerful weapon can be found in the final dungeon, but the weapon crafted by the Adamant is the second place by far. There is quite a gap between the second most powerful weapon in this game and the third most powerful weapon. So you definitely want to pick up Adamant if you want to put a major hurt on the enemies. Some of these treasure chests we consider tricks to get you to drop something valuable for something less valuable. On this floor are a silver helmet, which is what we're looking at, and an opal gauntlet. Neither one of these are very important to have. And you could, again, take this gear back to Gaia and sell the silver helmet and the opal gauntlet, but I'm just going to drop them so that I can keep things moving. Now here's a crucial story point. If we talk to this robot and then look at this little lookout point. There is a reference to the very first dungeon of the game, the Temple of Fiends, where we saved Princess Sarah from the rogue knight Garland. On this floor, the notable treasures are another pro ring, a pro cape, and the pro cape is actually a shield that can be equipped by anyone. So I would give them to your black and white mages if you want to maximize your defense. Up to this point in the game, neither one of them have had a shield that they can equip. So this is an inventory slot that they have never used up to this point. And then the most powerful weapon for your ninja is on this floor, the katana. So you have to make a choice when it comes to the black and white robes, whether you want them for the abilities that they carry, or whether you want to keep the opal bracelet for the 10 extra points of defense. That is a significant advantage to have that much defense over the black and white robes. So you might want to give one of them up. I don't want to do that because I like the utility and I like having the abilities just for collection purposes. But in all practical thinking, I would probably drop the white mage's white robe in order to keep the opal bracelet. Now there's a gap in my recording of my NES Classic playthrough. So we're going to swap over to the original NES hardware for a little while. And in this playthrough is where I was able to record our obtaining the katana. And there it is, Miko's best weapon. Second best. See, the most powerful weapon in the game that we find in the final dungeon is equipable by anybody. So technically everyone's best weapon is the weapon you find at the end of the game in the final dungeon. But there's only one of them that you can find, so you have to pick a character to give it to. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but now we come across what looks like computer rooms that have been corrupted and taken over by the Fiend of Wind. Every computer says the same thing. Something notable about this dungeon is that there are no monsters guarding treasure chests. Once you pass the blue dragon at the top of the Mirage Tower and you make it to the Sky Castle, there are no forced encounters of monsters guarding a room or a treasure area. The next floor is like a maze, but it has a very simple symmetrical solution. Just go 2 intersections in any one direction, and then go 2 more intersections in any perpendicular direction from your original. Here is a fight that scares me no matter what level we're at, no matter what abilities are available to us, and no matter what gear we are equipped with. Whenever I see sorcerers, especially more than 2 of them, I set myself up to flee from the battle for 2 characters and then give them everything I've got for the other 2. Remember, even if someone gets 1 shot killed, you cannot bring them back with the life spell. You can only use the life spell outside of battle. There goes Miko, and now everybody but Omaru is paralyzed, and the person in the 3rd and 4th slots have a very low chance of escaping. That's why I queued up Omaru to use our most powerful attack spell. Even though I purchased Nuke, Omaru's level is not high enough to use it yet. Now Shal is cured. We can try to wrap up this fight since we've taken out 2 of these sorcerers, but I am not playing any games. Well, I am playing a game, but I am not taking any chances, and we are going to run if we have the opportunity still. Especially after a Mud Golem gives a sorcerer the fast spell so that he can attack multiple times, which increases the chances that one of those multiple hits will take out our warrior. We could have stayed and fought with the way things rolled out, but like I said, I wasn't going to take a chance. Now we can use life to get Miko back. We don't have to leave. We have enough resources to sustain ourselves and to heal Miko up enough, so we will continue heading towards the Fiend of Wind. Now when I went through this particular dungeon, I was using Nintendo Power's maps, and their map cut a little too small. So I got lost for a moment, but you'll see me recover. I thought that the transporter should have been right there, but I needed to go 1 more intersection to the left. I'm going to go up 2 more times, out of my own faith for the Nintendo Power Magazine map, and then I will head west and south, which will lead me to the proper stairway. Now on this floor, you may come in contact with the most powerful enemy in the game. He is relegated to being a common enemy in later Final Fantasies, but in this particular game, he is even more powerful than the final boss of the game. So if you see him on your way to Tiamat, I strongly recommend running. Oh my goodness. What? We gotta get out of there. I strongly recommend running. Fortunately for my playthrough, I did not come in contact with Warmech, although I do plan on coming back to face Warmech by himself. But since I want to progress the story, I would hate to get this far and then have Warmech take out my party, and then I have to start this dungeon over again from the beginning. Tiamat is a powerful fiend indeed. She resists the 3 attack elements, ice, fire, and lit. She also uses those 3 attack elements against you and has a poison gas attack as well. You can start the battle just like any other boss fight where we use fast on our 2 physical attackers. I forgot to switch Miko and Shao, but hopefully they'll be okay for this fight. Tiamat is also weak against the poison element, which means Miko's Bane Sword will be used while Shao, Omaru, and Kao do their thing to keep the party alive and put the physical damage on Tiamat. But if you have ribbons equipped, Tiamat's elemental attacks won't be as big of a concern. If we wanted to, we could have the Black Mage use Break on Tiamat as well. I don't have any spell slots for Break, and Break is a little bit more accurate, so it would be a better choice, but Bane does not cost any MP slots, and it gives our ninja something to do, since even with a katana, the ninja's attacks don't do that much. Now, along the way, we've also picked up the Aegis Shield for Shao, which gives him defense against poison. So between the Dragon Armor and the Aegis Shield, Shao has protection against 4 of the elements, including poison. Bane was not effective this time around, but we will try it again as the other 3 continue to do their thing to sustain the party and wear out Tiamat. And one of the strategies that we could use for Kao here would be to use that white robe to cast Invis on the party so that Tiamat's physical attacks eventually aren't intimidating at all. But as of right now they are, and I don't like to use that many turns to make us that invulnerable to Tiamat's attacks. I just feel like she will take out at least one member of the party before we get to that level of protection. We'll throw up our physical defenses. And really, because everyone is equipped with some type of elemental resisting armor, using A-Lit or A-Fire or any of those is kind of pointless. Here comes the Bane Sword again. Still ineffective. We'll try it again. Because Tiamat resists all 3 of the attack elements, the best move for a black and white mage in attacking, there it is. The best move for the black and white mage would have been Nuke or Fade, which is Flare or Holy. We have restored the 4th and final orb, but the game is not over. So what is our next step? If you remember, the Circle of Sages at Crescent Lake told us to see them repeatedly as we restore the light to the orbs. That was a mistranslation. It should have told us to just visit them once all the orbs' light has been restored. So that is our next step to find out what our final objective is, to save the world and clear the game.